Okay, we're here with the first Salesian Sports Broadcasting podcast, and we're here with about 12 people to go and discuss all the things going on within sports, and particularly, in an awkward way, what's going on with the freshmen within basketball after this podcast going up against Kennedy Catholic. I have my opinions. I went and saw the game yesterday. This is Mr. Dwyer, by the way. I went and I saw them play against Regis, and they did a really good job. It's a really tall team. Regis was pretty short. It was pretty easy to block them and win by double digits. We're very, very happy about that. Nothing against Regis, but we're better. So what we'd like to do for the first part of this podcast is discuss the thing that's been the most buzzing within the news, and that is the trade deadline regarding the MLB and who's on what team and what's been going on. We've been kind of covering this ourselves for the past couple of weeks, getting our opinions on what we think might happen, and some of us have been correct and some of us have been very wrong, and most of us have been either very happy or very upset. Let's have one of the members right now start that discussion.
So it's Chris Game with this broadcasting podcast. We're going to start off by talking about baseball, where this offseason has just been living up to the hype. You know, the past two offseasons have been pretty quiet. We have last offseason where guys like Bryce Harper and Manny Machado signed, and it was, spring training was only a week away. That's not the case this offseason. We already have a ton of our superstars. In fact, the three main superstars that everyone's been talking about have already signed. Steven Strasburg has signed a 7-year deal with the Nationals. Garrett Cole signed a 9-year deal with the Yankees. And Anthony Rendon just last night signed a 7-year deal with the Los Angeles Angels of all teams. I'm surprised about that move. I think it's a good move for the Angels. I think all three of these moves are good. I understand it's a lot of money that these three superstars are getting paid. But, I mean, these teams' fans should not be disappointed when every team adds a big superstar like that. You shouldn't be very angry. But let's start off with talking about this Garrett Cole signing. I mean, for most Yankee fans, they got their wish. They got Cole for Christmas. This is what most Yankee fans wanted. They wanted that top-end starting pitcher. They've been complaining. They've been calling the Yankees cheap these past couple years. But finally, the Yankees went out and they got their top-end starter, Garrett Cole. Yeah, it's for 9 years. He's gonna get paid the most money that he is the highest paid pitcher in history. I understand that he's gonna be getting paid $36 million a year. He's gonna be making around $1 million to start. It's a lot of money, and for only 5 years or 6 years where he's actually gonna be good. But I mean, if you want a superstar player like that, no matter what position, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to give them what they want, and what they want is a lot of money and a lot of years. So those are the pros and cons about adding a superstar like that, and you're going to have to Yankee fans. And yeah. We also have news today that Brett Gardner has signed with the Yankees. I mean, that seems pretty that's not really too much of a surprise because, the Yankees could have given him anything. They could have given him nothing. He would sign with the Yankees, I bet. But they gave him actually a 1-year, $12 million. Yeah, that might be a little for Brett Gardner. I would assume that's sort of high, but he also has a option for another year in 2021, I think that is. And I mean, he had a great year for you. He's the longest tenured Yankee. I think it made all the sense in the world to bring him back. And now I think that outfield's complete. Starting pitching's complete. There's still rumors about Dellin Betances in the bullpen. Do you want to upgrade that? I don't know. But I think if the Yankees are pretty much done this offseason, there's still rumors about trading J Happ. I think you can go either way with that. There's the thought maybe they want to trade J Happ because he is getting paid $17 million. And if they trade him, I think you got to figure something out with that fifth spot in the rotation. If going with Montgomery, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I wouldn't be against it, but I mean, I don't know. I think you can acquire a guy like Robbie Ray or Michael Fulmer who won't cost a lot And, with a guy like Matt Blake, who the Yankees believe in, and apparently Garrett Cole believes in, I mean, maybe you could turn these guys into better pitchers, because Robbie Ray and Michael Fulmer have some of the greatest stuff that you could find from a pitcher. Maybe they just need a new change of scenery and a better pitching coach and better coaches to make them better. And maybe you could find something in these guys. As for the Nationals signing Steven Strasburg, bringing back your second best pitcher, I guess, or you can have that argument. He's going to finish his career with the Nationals. Okay. He's gonna spend the rest of his career with the Nationals. Getting paid $35 million a year. And I think it's a good move. It was between him or Rendon, but they chose Strasburg, and there are some pros and cons. I mean, Rendon's production is going to be very hard to find elsewhere. I don't think Josh Donaldson is going to give you the same production that Rendon gave you. If the Nationals acquire Chris Bryant, because he's been rumored to get traded, or if they acquired any other third baseman, I don't think Rendon's production is really going to get replaced. I think that's going to be hard to find. The fact that he also played pretty good defense as well. I think an MVP candidate and clutch hitter in the playoffs too. That's going to be really hard to find. But Strasburg, you can say the same things about the same things that I said about Rendon. You could say about Strasburg with pitching. Strasburg had a fantastic year, fantastic postseason, World Series MVP, National his whole career. Rendon was too, but Strasburg, if he he's gonna finish this deal with the Nationals, he's gonna be I think greatest National ever. You have there's talk Scherzer, Harper, but you could have that argument, but I think Steven Strasburg is going to go down in history as the greatest National ever, and probably the first National to be in the Hall of Fame. I think Scherzer would actually be, but I think he's going to go to the Hall of Fame as well, Strasburg. As for the Angels, they're the ones who are going to be getting Anthony Rendon. I'm actually really surprised about this move. It's the average Angels, they'll miss out on a superstar pitcher and then acquire a superstar hitter. They've done that. Apparently, they did that in 2012, where they were rumored to get Zach Greinke, and then that didn't happen. And then just like a couple of days later, they got Josh Hamilton. Same exact thing this year. They were like just a couple of weeks ago the number one favorites to acquire Garrett Cole, and now they missed out on him. The Yankees got him. Now Anthony Rendon is there. He's going to be getting paid a lot of money. But I think, he's going to give you great production to go with Trout as well. And now I think they just got to focus on the pitching. They have a pretty nasty team. So I'm going to pass the mic.
So to add... my name is Albert. So to add on to what Cole was... I honestly am really happy that they signed Cole, because I think our Achilles heel this whole year was the fact that we had a really bad rotation, especially with players like Montgomery and Luis Severino. They were out with injuries, and when they both came back after they were injured, all their starts that they did were just terrible. I think Jordan Montgomery, when he came back from his Tommy John surgery, he didn't even last like a full inning. And so we really needed a good workhorse starting pitcher, who is also as young as Cole is. Plus, also got crippled as well when we lost Domingo Germán, because he was essentially our ace the whole year when Severino was out because of the something about his wife. He was some sexual assault charge or whatever. And so yeah, I think our main focus that we should have put that we put, because Hap just bombed it this year. I think he escaped like a 5.0 ERA. Plus he's getting plus he's a veteran. So yeah, our starting rotation was really our Achilles heel this year. I'm kind of glad we got Cole because now because now that we have Cole, I think we could potentially be good enough, especially with our savagery defense. Freaking DJ Mayhew at first was like an iron wall, and it's just we have such good players on offense, but for defense, our pitchers are just terrible.
All right, I'm Kenneth, and Chris made a point of pitcher. I'm thinking we should give Johnny Lasagna a chance to be a starter. This year he hasn't been too good, but we see his potential. Now about that Garrett Cole signing, he was overpaid, cause now we're gonna have to worry about the luxury tax. According to Fox, there's gonna be 30% tax on any contract we pay from now on in 2020. So that's something to worry about. Now for the Yankees defense, they shouldn't get anybody else except for maybe Don Patances, cause he's an important bullpen piece. If anything, they should just keep LeMahieu at second, put Voit at first, put Glaber at short, and Urshela at third. And Duhar should be traded, and so should Clint Frazier, cause there's no room for him. We have Mike Tauchman in the outfield, and Brett Gardner's probably gonna retire this year. So Aaron Judge is already good, and Giancarlo is also good. So we should trade Frazier.
Great discussion, everyone. Sorry that everyone was laughing at the fact that Siri couldn't hear anyone right now, especially the fact that Cole was a Yankee. I don't think anybody was prepared for how much money he was going to be offered to do that. But yeah, the MLB is shaping up for this year. Yankees are looking good. Mets need some work. And the rest of the league, it's going to be supremely interesting. Now, something that's actually playing right now, that is the NBA. The NBA is going on, and there's some things that we're not surprised about. There's some things we are surprised about, like the Knicks winning in overtime. And we got some people here to go and discuss that.
What's going on, guys? My name is Alan, a.k.a. Alan the Creator. And let's talk about a bit about the NBA, on what's going on with the teams, the conferences, especially with the Knicks, the Lakers, all the top tiers fighting to get a spot in the playoffs. Now let's go on. Let's start with the disappointments of this season. Foremost, I feel like the most disappointing team right now is in fact the Portland Trail Blazers. Adding Hassan Whiteside, a defensive monster rebound with the long size of scoring of Lillard and McCollum, and still not even being in the playoff race is kind of bad. I feel like that's terrible. But let's move on from that. Let's talk about a little bit about a current team right now in our our beloved land, New York, the New York Knicks, and how previously they were projected at one point even to win the finals if everything was gonna go right. And this offseason, as we know, this didn't go as well. Kyrie signed to Brooklyn, KD signed to Brooklyn. They get Zion. It's just been it's just been terrible for the Knicks. I feel like as if the Knicks weren't ready. Adding R.J. Barrett and Julius Randle sounds good on paper, but David Fitzgerald kind of ruined that. They ruined the play style. He just got fired, thank God. He's a terrible coach. But now with the candidates for Mark Jackson, Mike Miller, I feel like the Knicks actually have a chance to maybe even still make the playoffs if the coaching gets fixed. And I feel like a special somebody would like to have a talk with the Knicks. Please give a warm welcome to Steve O'Hustle.
What's up, guys? Steven Mazza here. Now, today, we're going to talk about a disappointing franchise that I have on my iPhone cover. You know, we won yesterday. Very surprised we won. Surprised we didn't blow that lead. We were up by 20, and then we won in overtime. You know, I don't know how, but we won overtime. I'm kind of very disappointed in Julius Randle, but I think he's a huge disappointment so far, even though he's trying to get back, but his defense is terrible. Last year, he was averaging 21 on the Pelicans. And when you're on the Knicks, you have the ball 24/7. And he's averaging 17 right now. Very disappointing. I'm liking Marcus Morris, but he's probably going to get traded for value because we need picks. Now, we just fired David Fizdale, which I was happy about because Julius Randle brings the ball up, and he's a power forward. So now the rumors of our coaches that we might get are either Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy, and Tom Thibodeau. I'm happy with all those three. I would love Mark Jackson. All three of these guys care about defense and heart, and that's what the Knicks need right now. I believe we only have 4 or 5 wins, and Dolan needs to leave, but that's not happening. He wants too much money for the Knicks. I pray every day that he's not there. I go to the Garden and sell the Knicks sign, and nothing's changed so far. But I was very surprised with R.J. Barrett actually standing up and taking control with 22 points as the young man, 19 years old. But he hasn't been shooting that well lately. He's shooting around 60-something% from the free throw line, which he needs to work on that. But I still think he can make a case for Rookie of the Year. Now, I don't know if the Knicks are going to – I believe they're going to try to start, winning now with some trades because trading starts next week in the NBA. And I think it's going to be a crazy time with all-stars like Kevin Love, Jrue Holiday, Gallinari, Steven Adams, Chris Paul, Westbrook, who knows? But people are going to get moved. But the Knicks have to do something because, the new rule now in the NBA is you have to actually have a decent record to get a good pick. And we saw with the Pelicans had a decent record. The Knicks had the worst record in the league, had the best odds, and they got the 3rd pick. So we missed out on Zion, which, it sucks, but he's injured. Missed out on Durant, didn't offer him the max. That's just terrible management by Dolan. Same with Kyrie. We should have been more smart with those decisions, and I feel like if we didn't have James Dolan as an owner, I feel like 100% we would have these two right now. So
Hey guys, this is Colin here, and I'm here to also talk about the Knicks. Now, I'm not a Knicks fan myself, but I just wanted to say how I think the Knicks could be in a so much more better state right now if they just were able to handle their personnel decisions better. Now, I know the Knicks are often viewed as a joke, but actually, I think there's a lot of great young pieces on this roster. You have R.J. Barrett, who, if it weren't for John Morant, would probably be the Rookie of the Year favorite right now, as well as Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina, Mitchell Robinson, Dennis Smith Jr., and Alonzo Trier. Now, I think all these guys can really play, and I think that if they're given more of an opportunity, they could all really be great players. But, so far, the only one of these players the Knicks have really played a substantial amount of minutes is R.J. Barrett. I think that if you're the Knicks, I think that you already know that you're not going to the playoffs, so I think that you just focus this season on trying to develop these young players, because I think that, like I said, I think they have potential. Mitchell Robinson was actually last year one of the top leading Now, one thing that I think is really crazy is not playing Alonzo Trier at all. Alonzo Trier is a shot creator, and that's actually one of the things where the Knicks have been lacking. Alonzo Trier has actually picked up a lot of DNPs recently, and I think that if you're the Knicks, you have to play him more because I think he could really develop into something. I think that another thing you have to do if you're the Knicks is I think you have to stop better minutes. What's the point of giving guys like Marcus Morris and Elfrid Payton 40 minutes a game if you're just going to still end up losing? I think that you're not going to get anything out of them because a lot of these guys, and I think the Knicks know it themselves, a lot of these guys are rentals. So if you're the Knicks, I just think that you have to show more of a shift towards your young players because all in all, I think that's what's going to get you out from getting out of being irrelevant.
Totally agree with all of you guys. Being a Knicks fan myself, I miss those days with Allen Houston, Latrell Sprewell, and Ewing. Just people aren't anymore. It's just we had a time where management actually knew what they were doing. We got Ewing. and it just stinks that you know we've been at the bottom for so long. We've had some really good players with David Lee and Nate Robinson, but collectively, and even Crawford in his heyday, a lot of people that were just making a mix. Stoudemire at his end of his prime, playing as hard as he could with Chandler. It's just we've never gotten everybody to work collectively together, and we're still waiting for that. So, I think we're going to move on to our new topic, which involves another sad New York team, and that's the Giants, the Book of Eli. Eli finally got his opportunity to come back against the Eagles on Monday Night Football and show off in the first half what he truly is like, even in the rain. Beautiful spirals in the beginning, just dropping dimes on the corners, and just so lovely. And then whatever we call an offensive line that is injured and battered and destroyed, just letting him down. Our secondary defense just not doing what they're doing. The Giants need help. 2 wins. Most of those at the beginning of the year. It hurts. And we got a round table of people with discussions, not just on the Giants, but all across the NFL, what to prepare for, because we do have a few more weeks left until playoffs, and there's a lot to consider.
Hey, this is Colin again, and I'm going to talk about the Giants here. Now, unfortunately, I have the honor of being a Giants fan, and I'm not going to lie, it's been pretty hard. Right now, we're sitting at 2-11, and I think that actually surprises a lot of people, including myself. I mean, I think if you look at this team, we actually have a lot of talent, but for just whatever reason, it's not working. And once again, much like the Knicks, I know the Giants are also kind of viewed as a joke, but if you look at our roster, I think we actually have a lot of good pieces. I'm actually pretty impressed in what Daniel Jones has been able to do in his first year. I think that especially behind a weak offensive line, I think that he's actually shown himself that he could be a starter in this league. Of course, you have Saquon Barkley, who despite a down year has actually, I think, been put in, I think he can still, he's still a great running back, and he's still one of the best running backs in the league. You also have offensive weapons like Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard, and Darius Slayton, who was actually a great find in the 5th round of this year. Now, but that's where the problem comes. You look at the defense. Now, I think that we have one of the worst defenses simply in the NFL. A lot of our guys are either old veterans that have been washed up now, or just a bunch of young, unproven guys that can't really play that well. Now, I mean, there's some good pieces on there. I liked Ryan Connolly, who he picked up last year out of the draft, but he ended up getting injured. And I mean, I think that personally, I think defense is where we're going to have to look to. And now, the Giants are not going to be a good team this year. I mean, we all know they're probably going to end up with a top 2 pick, but that's actually where I think we can improve our defense. Chase Young out of Ohio State is a very promising prospect, and one guy I think that we should definitely pick up because he would really help our defense. Now, although we have a talented offense, why isn't that translated to wins? Now, I think that a lot of people want to get rid of Pat Shurmur and Dave Gettleman. I definitely think Pat Shurmur's got to go. I think that he hasn't been able to manage his team well, and just throughout his career as a coach, he just hasn't been able to win football games. I think that you have to let him go. Gettleman, I'm kind of iffy about because he's made some good moves. He's done some good drafting, but other decisions haven't been good. I actually liked his move for training for Odell Beckham because, I mean, as you've seen, Odell Beckham hasn't been putting in as good a production now. I think it was a pretty controversial move at first. I think it's actually worked out for them in the long run. Now, I mean, I'm okay on Gettleman. I mean, I think that he might end up going to along with Shurmur, but if Gettleman does stay, there's one coach who I do want us to target. I think that we should go after Ron Rivera, who was just the coach of the Carolina Panthers. Now, him and Gettleman were able to, win a lot of divisions together in the NFC South, and I think that signing him would be huge because the Giants have lacked a defensive coach for a while. Tom Coughlin, who he won 2 Super Bowls with, was a defensive coach. Bill Parcells, also a defensive coach. And just the past 2 recent coaches we've had, Ben McAdoo and now Pat Shurmur, have been offensive coaches, and that just hasn't worked out for us. So I think that if you're the Giants, I think that you need to prioritize defense this offseason because I think that's what's really holding us back from getting better.
Totally agree. 1,000% agree. Being a Jets fan, at least you got a quarterback. At least you got a steady linebacker. At least your defense is doing something. But, yeah, Giants, they need a lot of work, man. They need a ton of work. Let's continue on this conversation.
Hello, my name is Joao Santo, and I'm usually behind the mic, not doing anything. But talking about Eli Manning, I think he's better off as a quarterback to help the quarterbacks, a trainer for the quarterbacks, because his brother one day at a basketball game showed that he could still throw. I mean, Peyton Manning should too, or become a coach. Both of them should. And then, now the Eagles, good win. I've been back and forth on teams. It was mainly between 3 teams: Eagles, Jets, and Patriots. And now I finally stuck with one. My boys, the Jets. Let's go green. I know everybody will come and target me, say Jets suck. They lost. They lost to the Bengals. Gave them their first win. La, 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 la. Who cares? Do we still have a better record than the Bengals? Yes. Can we get the wild card? No. But can the Bengals? No. So.
It's a valid point, Joel. Very valid point. Nobody wins when you're a Bengals or a Jets fan. And the only thing wild is the fact that Darno got mono. I think that's the wildest thing out of all of it. With that, hockey is a sport. And I don't think it gets enough credit, especially because the Rangers are doing so bad. The Devils started, about what you'd expect and then dipped real heavy. The Islanders are doing real solid job right now and staying pretty standard there. We got Keith over here to go and discuss what's going on in the hockey world for all 4 of you listening in to learn about that.
Hi, it's Keith Kelly, and I'm here to do a quick progress report on the local hockey teams. I want to start off with the New York Islanders. This was a team that a lot of people slept on coming into the beginning of the season. They overlooked their defense, and I think a few writers still thought that they needed John Tavares to win. Well, Matthew Barzal, I think he's filled the role amazingly, especially being it's only his second year in the league. In his rookie year, being able to play with Tavares, I think that he was able to learn a lot, but he really took over. Beauvillier is having a lot better of a start of a season than he did last year. Last year he had a terrible start where they were thinking about waiving him. And the defense, the Islanders' defense is one to top out there. It has to be. It's a good mix of a defense that can lock you down. They're a good puck-moving team. Ryan Pulak, Adam Pelech, they're a big duo who can lock down a lot of top guys, and they're also good playoff performers as well. We saw that in the Penguins series. Moving on to the Rangers. The Rangers are a team right now that are at the second wild card race. They're about 6 points out. There's still a chance that they catch up. It's highly unlikely, though. Their problem is they're a little inconsistent, and they don't have great depth. I think with a little bit of a better depth that they would be a lot better team as well, but they really don't have the cap space to sign anybody now with Panarin and Trouba, which I think Panarin's been doing pretty well. Trouba, there's a little bit more to be desired from him. Moving on to the Devils, who as of right now, they sit second last in the league. They're runner-up of the winner of the offseason, and they just have not put anything together. I've talked about them a lot. They have the pieces there, but they can't execute, and that's their problem. And finally, the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres are a team that started out really strong. Everybody was playing out of their minds, and now they kind of cooled off. They are still in a playoff spot. They're second in the Atlantic. I don't know if they'll be able to hold on. I think they will, but I need to see a lot more production from guys like Jack Eichel, Rasmus Dahlin, Rasmus Ristolainen, and I think their goaltending situation could be a little bit better. Now, moving on to some more. Problem is, I don't blame it on the coach. I blame it on the GM because the issue was they decided to go with signing Erik Karlsson, who does not look like he recovered from groin surgery as well as he should have, as well as they just have that defense that is supposed to get guy who could lock anyone down. Situation It's a team that's getting older. They have now on that team is not ready enough to take that role. I think Timo Meyer's a great player. I think a lot of people had them ranked as a top team. I don't think everyone had them really ranked as the best team in the league. And they have that lead by a good amount over the Bruins, even though the Bruins still have a game in hand. They're a team. I'm not saying that they're going to win another cup. They're notorious for choking in the playoffs. But at the same time, I think that they still have a lot of room to improve. And this is a capital team. I think that was ranked worst in some of the other teams in previous history. And then finally, another disappointing team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. We can't say it enough. This is a team that was projected to be a top 5 team in the league, make the playoffs. Over the last couple of years, they've had trouble making the playoffs. They had trouble. They can't develop young youth. They can't develop their newer draft picks are either busts or just aren't where they're supposed to be projected. I look at a guy like Par Lindholm. He was supposed to be like one of those top guys, and he was ended up getting traded a couple last season, I think. But Mitch Marner, he had to come back. Matthews hasn't been producing the way he should. Tavares, I think, is taking a lot of the blame. I think he's just taking the blame because of how much cap space he's taking. But at the end of the season, at the end of the day, I think that the Maple Leafs will wind up. I think that a lot more teams are going to kind of regress as the season go on, whether it's due to injury or anything else, really. So that's it for now. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Keith, for your in-depth report on hockey. There are very few of us, aside from maybe a few juniors I know, who know enough about hockey to go back and forth with you, and a handful of sophomores. But that in-depth analysis is so necessary for us to at least be proud that hockey is a sport within this great United States, and we got 2.5 teams, 3.5 teams to root for if you include Buffalo, but that's basically Canada. So here's a new segment, and by new, I mean this is the first podcast we've done. This is new to us, but I'd like to call this Hedge Your Bets. I got a question for people around the room. I want to hear their opinions on the matter. When it comes to the Mets this offseason, what are their bets on the Mets collective ERA being under 3 or over 3? I want to hear people's opinions.
I think it's going to be over 3. I'll tell you what. I don't think Porcello's going to do good with the Mets. I don't think he's going to have a good year. I'll tell you that right now. I haven't seen, he just hasn't been good in Boston, for the past 3 years really. He had a really good year in 2016. He won the Cy Young Award in 2016, but that was, back then wins and losses really mattered, and he was still really good though. Okay. I just don't think he's gonna do good in New York. I don't know. There's just something about he doesn't throw hard. He's just gives up a ton of home runs. Had a really bad year last year. I just don't see the stuff. He doesn't have great stuff, and I can't see that stuff translating to the Mets. I mean, you have guys like Syndergaard and Wheeler who have some of the greatest stuff in the world, and they haven't been able to be superstars. Really, I don't think Syndergaard is necessarily a superstar. I think he's really popular, but I don't think he's a superstar because, in my opinion, a superstar is a person who plays really good baseball, who's a great baseball player, and is really famous. That's my idea of a superstar, and Syndergaard hasn't been that superstar caliber. And I can't see Porcello being good with the Mets next season. I could see Waka though being good. Waka maybe a change of scenery was what he needed. And you could say the same with Porcello, but I don't know. There's something about Porcello. I can't see this stuff translating to New York, and I feel like he's gonna have a bad year. And I think you're paying him a lot of money. You can't designate him for assignment middle of the year. As for Mats and DeGrom, I think they're gonna have good years. I don't think DeGrom's gonna have that same year that he had these past 2 years. But I think he's gonna have a good year. But it's not gonna be enough to bring the Mets ERA down. And I think Walker's gonna be okay. I think he's gonna be good. But and Steven Matz, but no, and he's gonna be decent. Overall, I think the Mets have a rotation of and Syndergaard too. I think Syndergaard's gonna actually have a really good year. I'll tell you that right now. I think he's gonna have a bounce back year. That's my prediction on Syndergaard. Not just because of the stuff, but I think it is because of the stuff. After these past 2 seasons have just not been what you'd expect. Injuries and last season just wasn't really good. Last season wasn't great. Last season was really inconsistent. I think he's gonna have a bounce back year and be really good. But besides that, the Mets have a rotation of 2 number 1s and the rest are number 5s after losing Wheeler. So I don't think the Mets ERA is gonna be below 3.
Chris, that was more in depth than I ever imagined. That was the equivalent of a teacher asking for a 2-page paper, and you gave them an 8-page paper. But we're grateful for all your analysis and details, because that was more than I can ever imagine. I do have another hedge your bet question. Higher or lower, the number of home runs hit this year in comparison to next year? Are we going lower? Or are we going higher? What do you think?
Higher. The balls are juiced.
Okay, thanks, Ken. That was the opposite of what Chris just did. And you gave me a paragraph, although you did answer the question. That's a great answer.
I think higher because think of all the teams if they all did home runs, and if you count Grand Slam as well.
Well, I think the thing you have to take into account, Joao and Ken, is like Ken said, the balls being manufactured. There's a new report that came out. The MLB had a group go and look at the data to see why people are hitting more home runs, and one of the things they said was that batters are going up to the plate wanting to hit home runs, where in the past they've always wanted to get on base. The second thing they discovered, and I thought this was way more interesting, especially in regards to physics, is that the laces were thinner. So this year was the first time there was a variance, a third across. So 30% of the balls had a lace that was similar or equal to last year. 30% of the balls had a lace that was actually thicker, and the other third of the balls were less than that, and then the other ones were inconclusive. But the ones that were the laces that were thinner were by 1/100th of a centimeter, but that makes a significant amount when it regards to feet and distance. So the thing that's most interesting about that completely is that they said, the manufacturers had variance among all the balls. But the past 4 years, there was not a significant variance. So to have that much of a variance says something about the MLB, much like maybe the NBA and their referees, maybe the NFL and their pass interference calls, trying to go and get a lot of people to watch games. Unfortunately, in my opinion, being Mr. Dwyer, I believe that people are going to get bored of home runs and they're not going to feel as special over time. But to think that there's going to be more, fairly likely if they're going to keep the balls where they're at. Now, here's another question I have. Last hedge your bet question. 8th seed in the playoffs for the NBA, East and West. What are people thinking? Because it's easy to guess top 5 in the NBA. I mean, for both sides. It's very easy to do that. But that last seed, that last position, that's pretty tough. So what are we thinking? We're thinking who's going to fit that? Who's going to fit those positions?
All right, this is Colin again, and first off, I'm going to start off with the Eastern Conference. Now, as of right now, the Orlando Magic are the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference, but I don't think the season's going to end like that. I'm going to go with the Detroit Pistons here. Right now, they're the 9th seed, and I think that this team, if they can unleash their potential, can be very good. Starting off at point guard, we have Derrick Rose, who is actually having a lot of people took his career as basically almost being dead, but he's really came back right now and contributed for them. As we just saw a couple days ago, he actually hit a game winner. I mean, I love to see that. I love to see D Rose back to where he was before. And I think that their front court of Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond is very lethal if they can be healthy. But of course, that's always been the problem, especially Blake Griffin, him be staying healthy. And I think that if Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, and Derrick Rose can all stay healthy, I think that they can easily hit the AFC because they definitely have the talent to do it. Now, moving on to the Western Conference. Now, I may be a little biased in saying this, but right now, the Phoenix Suns are the AFC, but I'm going to say my San Antonio Spurs. Now, the Spurs haven't gotten off to a rough start so far. As of right now, we're the 12th seed in the Western Conference with a 9-14 record. And I mean, I think it's just that this team has not really gelled together. I think that, we're bringing a lot of new players. There's DeJounte Murray coming back from injury. Some other guys like Trey Lyles being new additions to the team. And I think that, I think with Greg Popovich especially, Popovich one of the greatest coach of all time. I think that he can definitely bring us to at least the 8th seed, and we definitely have the talent too. 2 all-star caliber players in DeMar DeRozan. You should never count the San Antonio Spurs out. I think that's going to hold true here, and I think that when it comes to the 8th seed.
Awesome analysis. That's a hard one to argue against for either of those teams, especially for how it's going on so early. Hopefully both teams remain healthy to have that go through and make this a really interesting season. Last hedge your bets. The opportunity in the NHL for the Oilers to do something significant this year. I wouldn't even go as far as the Stanley Cup playoffs, but hedge your bets. Oilers, high seed playoffs, no playoffs. What are you thinking over here?
That's a good question. So I think it depends on McDavid and Draisaitl, their injuries, their how much they're playing, and if they're gonna tire out because they're just being overused. I'm going to say they're definitely a top 3 in their division. I'm not going to say number 1 just because they have a lack of depth. But I feel like in terms of playoffs, they're not going to make it that far. I'm going to say second round. Just because, like I said, lack of depth. Goaltending has been spotty. Miro Koskinen, it just does not look like your playoff contending goalie. I don't think he's proven enough yet. The defense is shaky. Yeah, they got pieces like Clefbaum and Nurse, but really besides that, it's not looking great on the defensive end. Pretty much it's just for an analogy, pretty much after any player on the Oilers gives the puck to McDavid, everybody else looks at them like Baby Yoda. Like they don't know what to do, and that's the point. It only matters what McDavid and Draisaitl do, and James Neal a little bit. I would kind of like to see him drop down to the third line, not because he's not playing well, but just because I think that he can add some – I want to see if he can add some kind of depth to that line, maybe help up that depth come playoff time.
Oh, awesome. I can't be happier with the discussion we've had so far. But there's one thing that we really didn't talk about directly, and that's the fact that Garrett Cole signed a really long contract, a really long one. So question is, good for the Yankees, bad for the Yankees?
I'd say it's good, but not so much in the long run. Like, he's a good player, but he's like 29, so if you give him like some years, he's like gonna age, not be as good, not gonna be worth $36 million a year, and the luxury tax, as I mentioned before. So I'd say like good, but not. He's gonna be good for now.
All right. Well, I'm also a Yankees fan myself, and I would actually say that I actually love the move. And now I know that it's very, people are highly critical of the Yankees for signing him for 9 years. But I mean, all in all, I think that he's not going to be the same player once you get into year 6, 7, 8, 9. But I mean, I think that it's all the while worth it as long as you can win championships with him. Now, I think that if you're the Yankees, you haven't won a championship since 2009. And for them, that is actually a long-suffering drought, believe it or not. But I think that if Garrett Cole can end up leading the Yankees and they can win multiple championships how they did back in the 90s and 2000s, so they can rattle off 2, 3, 4 championships. Especially if Garrett Cole can make that impact, I think that even then, even if he is washed up in year 7, 8, 9, you're going to be looking back on it thinking that was a good deal for them because it won them championships. And I mean, if the Yankees are just trying to improve their team, their starting ace was their biggest hole they had on their roster. And I mean, I think if you're them, I think that's a win for you.
Coming from a Braves fan, I go to Citi Field obviously more than I go to Yankee Stadium, but I think the Yankees, they did well. I think it's going to be the fans who suffer though. Those are the losers. Ticket prices are already ridiculous at Yankee Stadium. They just got even more ridiculous so they could pay off for his contract plus the luxury tax. So yeah, good job. You got a pitcher. How many people show up to your games now?
Yeah, I'm gonna go on what Colin said. Yeah, this contract's gonna be judged by championships, really, and I think the way the way the Yankees fans and the way the Yankees are, it's not just gonna be one championship that judges this move. If they win one championship and that's it for this whole 9 years, that's gonna be considered a failure. All right, but I think this Yankee team is strong. They're young, and I think for the first, I would say 5 years of his contract, I think they could win more than one championship. I think they have a high chance of that. And I'll tell you what, I have a bold prediction. I think he's going to be fine the whole 9 years. I think he's definitely going to have some down years. I think he's going to have maybe a couple years. But, I don't think his whole I think he's going to have maybe the first 5 years is going to be really good. Then he's maybe going to have 2 down seasons. And I feel like he's going to figure something out and do what Verlander and Sabathia did, where they, with Sabathia becoming a finesse pitcher. Garrett Cole has some really filthy off-speed pitches, and if he can make that if he can make those pitches his number one pitch, it's really hard to reinvent yourself as a pitcher. It's really hard to have a renaissance of a career like Justin Verlander and CC Sabathia did. But I think if Garrett Cole can do that, that's just gonna make that contract even better. Garrett Cole could have could be the greatest pitcher ever in these 9 seasons, but he's only going to be judged by championships. He could win 5 Cy Youngs. He's only going to be judged by championships. And that's the sad part about the deal, but I think it was a great deal, and I think it was one the Yankees needed to make.
Garrett Cole was pretty good as a Pirate. Then he went to the Astros, learned how to cheat a little, and then returned back to the form he's at. Yeah, you're right. It is about championships. But what a solid pitcher you can have already in a stellar setup for the Yankees. I think this may be what allows the Yankees to finally pass the Astros and get to that championship and see what they can do. Because God, their minor league system has been so good recently, building up themselves, and they're going back to the old ways with Jeter and Williams and Posada and Rivera, the bunch that came out of there, Pettit. So when you got that farm system feeding you through, I think they're going to really succeed. So with that, last thing I want to say, because in about 4 minutes, the freshman basketball team is going to start against Kennedy Catholic. I want to talk a little bit about Salesian Sports, just a little bit. Like I said yesterday, I saw the freshman game, and we got a big squad. We got some tall kids. We got some kids who can play. We got some well-rounded students. They're pretty darn good. They won by double digits, a small Regis team. They did all our teams, varsity, JV, and freshmen, swept Spellman. We got something going. We got something brewing. We started off a little slow with basketball, but we got something there. Kids to keep an eye out for. You got Prophet Fields, who's pretty good on offense. Defense needs a little work, but like I said, really early. Ryan Whelan, who's just all around doing work, shooting around 60% from the field. You got Patrick Livingston, big arms. Tylen Morris, also big guy down below. Matthew Casey, who's been really good with rebounding. It's a deep squad. They got like 10 guys on the bench. Not all of them get to play, which is unfortunate, but they really got a lot of, if anything comes up, they got a lot of people that can come up and take those positions. So future's looking bright. I unfortunately haven't seen the varsity or JV at home yet. Looking forward to it and to give more opinions on that. I've heard some things, though, about volleyball. There's been a lot of workouts, tryouts, open gyms, and the team's looking big this year, just like the number in general. So something to look forward to in the upcoming months. And we actually have a member of the team with us.
Yeah, I'm Chris. I'm actually on the volleyball team. I know a lot about baseball, but I actually do not play baseball. I'm not on the baseball team. I'm not good enough for that. But I joined the volleyball team, and I really enjoy it. If anybody listening wants to come, we have workouts. You can contact Hector Cruz, the senior, or you can come to me. I'm Chris Gambino, and you can ask us if you want to join our workouts. We have a group of young, we have a young squad of we have a lot of sophomores and freshmen. We also have a couple of juniors, and we only have one senior. Of course, last season was a very good season for the Salesian volleyball team, but it did not end very well. The Salesian team lost in the championship, unfortunately, to Regis. A very tough loss, very tough to watch, but especially it was really sad seeing our seniors go out that way. But you cannot deny they had a great season, going 13-0, undefeated in the regular season, beating every team, but unfortunately came short in the playoffs in the final against Regis, and but that was a past, and we look to just because most of our seniors left, just because most of our team was seniors and they're all graduated last year, it doesn't mean our expectations are any lower. We're expecting to go to win a championship. We're expected to do that again. We're expected to be there. We're expected to win it. So we're looking forward to that, and it's really exciting. All the Salesian sports are really exciting. It could be a little bit more exciting if they actually win the championships, but I think they all can. I think there's a strong program of athletics we have in this school, and it's really cool. So that's my opinion.
Hello, this is Joao again. So, as Chris was saying about the Salesian Sports, I'm part of the bowling team, JV. There's some interesting things. So, not a long time ago, our varsity team lost, and they were undefeated anymore. Luckily, JV is still undefeated, so which means we will get that banner. Now, I probably just jinxed our whole season. Next week is our last playoff game, so if we win, we get a whole banner to ourselves. JV, varsity, undefeated for JV, so yeah.
Well, we're hoping that all our teams continue to succeed around here. Just going around the room, since the game is now starting, what are some scores people are gonna throw out there for the freshman game? I'm gonna go put that Salesian wins. I'll say 38-34.
I'll say Salesian wins 41-0.
I'll say Salesian should get a hockey team.
Yes. Two things. One, I'm gonna say 30-10, and let's go Salesian Eagles.
I think it's probably going to be not really the same score, but Salesian winning 50-25.
There should be winter games for Salesian in baseball.
Salesian wins 46-41.
Okay, well, I can see a lot of you don't watch basketball. So Thank you all for listening in to our first podcast we had live today on December 12th. Mark your calendars when you remembered that particular day. And we'll be here next week, same time, same place, crammed in the AM Salesian closet with all majority of us. And we'll look forward to talking more sports with you, and hopefully we'll get to let you know if Kennedy went down and Salesian went. From all of us here, we're grateful for all of you, and as always, it's a great day to be a Salesian Eagle.